Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my April wrap up and favorites. I love making this video. I love looking back on the month, and I gotta say this month has been filled with the downs and the ups and the ups and the downs, and April has felt like it has lasted 100 years and also is over so soon, especially because I'm filming this a couple days early, which I always do, and I always give that disclaimer. I never skip any books. If you watch my weekly wrap-ups, you'll still know every single book that I read, but I do my weekly wrap-ups a little bit early, or my monthly wrap-ups a little bit early, so you can get them on the last day of the month. And yeah, like I said, this month will forever be April 2022 will be when I got fired from my day job, and I decided to try to make YouTubing and romance content creating a full-time career. We don't yet know the end result of that. You can watch my video about this here where it's not a clickbait title. It says I lost my job and what I'm gonna do next. The response from my community has been humbling, and I have been so blessed with people sending me love and sending me books, and my Patreon will be launching May 1st, and we're gonna see what I can do with making reading and reviewing romance novels a full-time gig. I am very excited, but either way, I'm giving myself 90 days, and again, you can know more of that if you watch the video, but it still is just crazy to me that literally the day that I filmed this, that was only 2 weeks ago, and wow, just so much has happened already. But what I do in these monthly wrap-ups is I talk about the stats, how many books, the ratings, all that jazz, and then some, like, you know, highlights and lowlights, and we already know what the low light is, but the highlight was just discovering how loved I am by my community, and that even though I'm not quite at 14,000 subscribers, where my goal was to get to 50K before I would even think of leaving my job, sometimes God and sometimes fate is like, nope, you're gonna try it right now. And either way, it's gonna be a great summer. I have some amazing trips planned. I'm going to get to meet people, and I'm going to get to do things that the pandemic has kept us from doing, and all these wonderful friends I've made during this time being locked in my house, I will have the freedom to go see them, and it's gonna be fantastic. So let's go ahead and dive into my stats. We have my trusty little The Book Refuge notebook with my little rip right here and my flat lay of the month. So let's dive in. In this month of April 2022, I read 53 books. One of those was a DNF, but I count it in the total just for tracking purposes. I read 15,893 pages, which was about 588 pages today. I divided that amount of pages by 27 because that's how many days I was reading before filming this, just so you know. When I end the month early, I do my pages early. But yeah, about 588 pages per day. Let's see what we can do in May when I can read all the time. We'll see. The formats of these books were 28 ebooks, 13 audiobooks, 13 advanced reader copies, and 14 physical books. Those overlap sometimes because I will often read a physical book while listening to the audiobook, just so you know. The ratings for these books were, I had 1 DNF, as I said, 1 6-star book, 10 5-star books, 7 4.5, 22 4-star books, 5 3.5, 4 3 stars, 2 2.5, and 1 2-star, which normally I don't have such a huge range of ratings, but I read a couple doozies this month that didn't go well. Again, check my weekly wrap-ups if you'd like more details about those, because I keep it pretty positive in my monthly wrap-up. We don't talk about the bombs. The subgenres of said books were 20 contemporaries, 11 fantasies, still staying really high up with the fantasy books since February. I've just been on a roll with those. Only 5 historical romances this month. That is definitely not normal. I don't know what's been going on with that. 11 dark romances, 3 paranormal, 2 sci-fi, and 1 erotic romance. So yeah, a very interesting range of things. Like fantasy is up very high and historical is down quite a bit, which is very interesting. So now we're going to talk about my 5 favorite reads of the month. So I love to do that. And there's definitely a theme in what my favorites this month were, but I'm very excited to talk about it. Let me just take a little drink of my Monster first. That actually works out kind of perfect because my favorite book of this month, and surprising no one is surprised, and my favorite book was Brutal Vows by J.T. Geisinger. This was a complete surprise that it was released in April. Just a couple weeks ago, JT finished the book early, got it all edited, and let us know we were going to be getting it for the end of April. As if I didn't have enough books coming out in April, as you could tell by the fact that I read 13 arcs this month. This book got moved up, and I was so happy. We were supposed to get it in June, and we got it in April. And this series, I don't think there is a series that I've read in the last few years that has been so consistently strong for me the whole way through, that has moved me to tears in every single entry, that has been so spicy, so well put together as this series by JT. I had the absolute honor of reviewing her. Yes, the honor of reviewing her, of speaking to her last month, and I have an even greater respect for her and just the joy of romance that she puts into her books. I also found out this cool little tidbit, which I actually didn't know, but she has actually, dedicated all of her books except for, I think, 4 of them to her husband, Jay. And she had this post about it that was really cute, where, she's dedicated each book to her parents, and then there was one time where she was turning in her book and she was mad at Jay, and so she didn't dedicate that book to him. And she's like, and it's also my least favorite book. It's so strange. Because like this one, it's so beautiful. Inside this one says, to Jay, my HEA. And I love that. I love that. If you want to know her meet cute with her husband, you should definitely go check out my interview with JT because it's amazing. Okay, talking about this. I'm being a little bit vague about it because I don't necessarily think there are like spoilers for this book by like talking about the other ones, but also her books are so fun right from the beginning that I don't want to spoil anything for you. Those of you who love this series is gonna love it. The Mafia Romance Readathon is coming up next weekend, May 5th through the 8th, and I would be tickled pink if everyone's trying this series because of that, or finishing this series. But this one is about Spider, aka Homer Quinn, who was an enforcer and secondhand man to Declan, who is Daddy Declan from Carnal Urges. And after a disappointment in his love life in book 3, he basically volunteers himself for an arranged marriage with the Cosa Nostra. So he's supposed to marry an 18-year-old girl named Lily. I believe it's Lily. Actually, it probably says it right on the back. Yeah, it's Lily. And don't fall. Just stay there. I don't want to hold it the whole time. And he's okay with this. He's like, you know what? Let's not worry about trying to fall in love anymore. I've tried to do that. Didn't work for me. So how about I just get myself in an arranged marriage to this pretty little sweet Cosa Nostra gal. He's a bit crude about it. He's a bit rude about it. But that's really him like masking his hurt feelings about something that's happened. Then we meet Raina, who is she's called the Black Widow. It is believed that she killed her husband, who was her husband for, I think, like it was 14 or 18 years. I can't remember how many it was for. I think it was 14. And she was horribly abused by him. But she will say again and again, she's like, I did not kill my husband, because there's no proof that she did. And when she finds out that her sweet, beautiful niece is engaged to this caveman of an Irishman, she is not here for it. She was told she could have the okay with who her niece was married to, but her brother-in-law, Lily's father, is like, no, I need this marriage to help raise my standing in the Cosa Nostra, so back off, bitch. Like, this is what I'm doing. Her brother is a spineless weasel. Let's just put that out there, by the way. Well, things don't go according to plan, because Spider is there to try to, you know, romance Lily a little bit. He's not a horrible man. He's wonderful. We love Spider. He's a big softie inside. And he understands that this child bride of his is terrified, and he's not there to be a big, scary, evil man, but this is a marriage that needs to happen. This is a alliance that needs to go forward. And he's not prepared to have such feelings for Rhaena, who is this badass queen who is like, I am not handing over my sweet, innocent niece to you. Like, you need to prove that you are worthy of her. And I don't want to tell you how it all works out, but I do want to say two things. One, if you are unhappy in Bridgerton season 2 with the wedding episode, let's just say that this book somehow, like, did what I wanted Bridgerton to do. I know that's such a weird comparison, okay? But if you had feelings about that, and then you read Brutal Vows, tell me I'm not correct. Tell me that the wedding in this book isn't how you wish that Bridgerton had went. Just saying so. Anyway, that's very vague and weird. When Quinn discovers more about Rhaena's past and the things that she has made it through, he is hit with the full weight of what Rhaena has survived and how strong of a woman that she is, and he is ready to bow at her feet like all good monsters for their queens. And I need to stop rambling about this because I can't say anymore. But I'm so happy this book existed, and I was nervous in the first half because there is a long portion of the book where he's engaged to Lily, but it's very clear the whole time that the chemistry he has with his Rhaena, and we know that he's not going to end up with Lily. It's how is this, going to work out, and how are we going to get what we want. And also just some fun kinks in this one. There is role-playing that happens. Role-playing a romance novel happens in this book. I'm just putting it out there just as a tease. It's fantastic. There is some marvelous steam in this book, as JT does so well. If you haven't guessed by kind of what I've said, the big trigger warning in this is previous domestic abuse, as well as, I would call it mutilation for the aggressive things that happened to Rhaena. So I'm putting that out there as well. But anyway, you gotta have some Quinn and Rhaena in your life. You just do. It's fantastic. My arm, that is awkward. We won't do that again. And then the next one, I told you there was a theme. We have Toxic by Maggie Cole. This is very anticipated for me. This is the first book in the Mafia Wars New York, which is the spin-off series from the Mafia Wars. I highly recommend that you've read the Mafia Wars before you read this. I really, really do. Not that Maggie doesn't do a good job of summarizing, but I don't think you get the full weight of this book if you haven't read at least the O'Malley half of the series. I'm just putting it out there, and I stand by it. I don't care. They're fantastic. I know y'all love to binge series. You can binge that series and then read this series, but this book was fantastic for me. This book is about Bridget, who is a widow. She has 2 teenage children, and she has been through some harrowing experiences, and she used to have feelings for Dante and Marino when they were children, but Dante was too full of himself. He had some lessons to learn. He's a twin. Him and his twin were real hot shit at their high school. And he breaks Bridget's heart in a foolish move. And he regrets it immediately, but it's too late. So she goes to Chicago to go to college, and she falls for Sean O'Malley, and she becomes an O'Malley wife. And then when we catch up with this story many years later, she is an O'Malley widow, and she has had to isolate herself from the O'Malley family, who she loves dearly, in order to protect her and her children. And there are some extremely frustrating things that we have to see her do. And you want to slap her, and you want to get her to speak. And you are like, why are you doing this? And when you fully see what this woman has been through and why she's making those choices, it still doesn't make me happy about it. It still doesn't make me wish it was different. But if I was a mother, and if I had lived through what she lived through, would I do it differently? I couldn't tell you. This is a fictional story, thankfully. I don't have to imagine it. But the vengeance that is taken in Bridget's name was deeply satisfying. This book is a little bit kinky. I absolutely adore Bridget and Dante's dynamic. I love that Dante pursues his woman and is willing to dive deeper into what's going on to figure out what's happening. And I love him so much. I adore him. Then we have Hydras by Amara Ray. This was also a new release. This is book 2 in the Lifeblood series, and I gave this 5 stars. I loved it even more than the first one. As I've said many times by this point, I actually think that Lifeblood was in my top faves of March, if I believe it was. There's one of these coming out each month, so there's going to be one in May and June. And this is about a witch coven who they are all hybrid witches, which is not great because they are not loved by either the races that their mothers bred with, nor are they accepted by the witches. So they have a coven and they are hated by their people. And at the beginning of this book, they're having to answer for some things that happen in book 1. And our heroine, Naya, she is the head of this coven, and she is called to defend her coven. And boy, does she. At this arena event that she is defending her coven in, our hero is a blood king of the Fae, and he is brought there for entertainment. They're like, hey, come watch this. These witches are going to fight to the death type of thing. And when he gets a load of Naya, he realizes that he has a connection with her and he's extremely attracted to her. And he has been told a prophecy that a witch hybrid would lead him to his fated mate. And he needs his fated mate for reasons, to help him defeat the Winter Kingdom. Well, it turns out that Naya, the thing that she's a hybrid is she's a hybrid fae. And guess who her father is? He's a Winter Fae prince. So, complications. This has many trigger warnings, including some dubious things. There is this thing that's almost like drugging, because it is the initiation of their mating bond literally takes the will of our heroine away to a certain degree for their mating. So just know that there's dubious consent and some non-consenty things happening. There's also some blood play. There's also a lot of other like kinky things. There's a list that the author has. Those are just the things that popped out to me. But overall, this was described by the author. She calls it a psychopathic sunshine, and that sunshine is the hero. Psychopathic sunshine, and our heroine is definitely a grump. She's had to be to protect herself. It's a thing. So yeah, I adored this book. I loved it even more than the first one, mostly because, as I've said, there's a lot of world building and heavy stuff that goes on in the first book. Also, it's just more chaotic, but it was still fun. Like, it was a crazy ride. This book, I very much understood what was happening when we went into it, and I am getting more of the lay of the land, and I just loved it. I loved it. Can't wait for Inferno, which will be book 3 coming soon. Then Mafia Darling by Mila Finelli. So this is book 2 in the Kings of Italy series. And the first 2, like, they're a duet together. So the reason why this one's here, not the first one, is that the first one was very frustrating to me. Okay, there was a lot about the first book that was frustrating to me. The hero had his head very far up his ass. He was very, like, possessive, but also controlling and bossy. And he's the head of the mafia of the, is this one Sicilian? This one might be Sicilian, or it might just be Italian. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it is Sicilian, but there we go. And our heroine, she is a mafia daughter, but she has mostly been able to live outside of it. And then she is getting given to our hero's son, as a debt. She is supposed to marry the hero's son. Well, the hero's son is gay and doesn't want to be married. And the hero, so this is a forbidden age gap, son's fiance situation. And they have incredible chemistry. But our heroine just wants out. Like, she doesn't want to be a part of this at all. She doesn't want, even though she becomes friends with his son, all these things. So in the first episode, there's a lot of messiness where the hero decides, okay, you're here to pay a debt. I guess you don't have to marry my son. I can make you my mistress. And then when I'm done with you, I will buy you a house. I will pay for college, whatever you want. But you're going to be my mistress until I'm done with you. Okay? That's a thing. There's some pretty intense drama that happens in the first one. And I did not like how our hero did it. I was like, I can't stop reading, though. I'm going to read the next one. When I tell you that this book completely redeemed the first book, and not only did that, but made me weep with the beauty of the ending of this story, yes, it did, okay? Holy crap. So much of what I thought was a hot mess in the first book, guess what? It's supposed to be a hot mess. The author had plans. She had plans for a character arc that was so satisfying to me. The way things are come to fruition with his son, who is a homosexual, and that is a dangerous fucking thing to be in the mafia. It just is, even in modern times. Like, it's not okay. The way that things are handled in this book, I openly was weeping multiple times. I loved this book. I loved the character arc. I loved how the heroine went from being bratty and like irrational sometimes to being an asset and a support to the hero, and the way that the hero needed to realize he needed to let go of some of his control. There's also a dash of daddy kink in here. She calls him papino in the bedroom, which is like, you know, daddy or papa. It's hot. Very hot. There is in the first, because you do have to read the first book first to have this satisfying character arc. These are not standalone books. You need to read them in order. So I'm just telling you, if you start the first book and it's driving you bananas, I beg of you to at least try the second book, because there are a lot of things that piss me off. The hero does some things that, well, guess what? There's a lot of grovel in this second book. There's a lot of grovel. And here's the thing, mafia men, they don't always grovel. They don't always get on their knees, okay? This man does, and it is satisfying. So I had to put this on my favorites, even though the first one was like a 3.5. I gave it a 4, but it was like a 3.5 for me because I was so frustrated. But because of the cliffhanger in the first one, I was like, fuck this. I'm going to read the second one, and then I'm going to rage about these books. And then the second one made me shut my mouth, and I cried, and I loved it. So there you go. And then the last one I want to mention, I actually just finished last night, and I will tell you right away, this one is not for everyone. It wasn't completely a dark romance, okay? But the themes that it deals with are quite heavy. The romance between them I wouldn't call dark, but it's heavy. So this is Control Freak by Brianna Hale. This was a viewer recommendation, but unbeknownst to my viewer, I've had this on my personal TBR for a very long time, but I put it off because of what the themes were, even though I'm not triggered by these themes. But still, it wasn't where I was like, oh, I'm so excited to read it type of thing. So the heroine in this is recovering from anorexia. So eating disorder triggers hard. And I wouldn't even say she's fully recovered, because we do have episodes and decline happen at certain parts of this book that made it extremely emotional. But this also has BDSM as healing, as a tool. It does not fix our heroine. The author has a note at the end where she was like, I want to make it very clear that the hero, with his, you know, dom self, he's not fixing the heroine, but he does give her tools and help assist her in finding a calm place in her mind where she can escape from the voice of her anorexia that is telling her she doesn't deserve love, she doesn't deserve food, she doesn't deserve happiness. She has this voice in her head that is degrading her all the time. And when she enters into this relationship, which she actually asks her boss, she has a part-time boss who is her father's friend. So this is an age gap. She's 25, he's 39. So it's taboo mostly because like it's a boss employee and they enter into this relationship together. But, you know, it's not like she's a teenager or anything. She just is also very naive in a lot of things, but also an old soul in others, because she's had this eating disorder for many years and she was in treatment for a long time. She's very scarred by this. So again, I've just listed a lot of heavy things. If you have struggled with an eating disorder and, you know, those thoughts are going to hurt you, I absolutely suggest you stay far, far away from this book. But if you would like to maybe understand an eating disorder a little better, or you have survived one and you find it interesting to go back into that, to read it a little bit, I do suggest it, because for me, I don't struggle with these thoughts. I have struggled with some self-hate and like degrading talk in my head before, as a plus size woman most of my life. That is a struggle that I've had. But the way that our hero is so patient and his love is enduring, and their connection, which begins as like, it's sexual right away, but it's also very supportive in so many ways. And there's therapy involved in this. Our heroine is actively in therapy, and our hero is able to be a calm place for her, and their BDSM relationship supports her recovery. It does not fix her. The hero's love does not fix her, but it gives her a safe harbor and it gives her support that she needs. And I loved that. I openly cried many times reading this book because I felt for the heroine so much. It was tearing my heart out. And again, I wouldn't call this dark, but I would call this heavy. And I would say to tread lightly with it. But it never sunk so deep that I thought I would die from it. It's under 300 pages. So it wasn't like a heavy cloud for so long, but it was very good. I gave it 5 stars. I don't think it's going to be for everyone, but I was very happy that I read it. So anyway, so there you go. That is my April 2022. I can't wait to see what I have to share with you at the end of May, to see how my first month as a full-time YouTuber went. Oh my gosh. If you would like to support me, you can do something as little as please liking this video. It really helps me in the algorithm. I know nobody wants to talk about it, but subscribe to this if you would like recommendation videos. I put up 1 to 2 of those a week. I have weekly wrap-ups. It's great. I'm just wrapping up my Outlander content, which is fantastic. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. It means so much to me, and I'll see you next time.